There was one funny story to do with Fred Freiberger that he had a nickname. He was called the serial killer.
Last week I posted a video about Fred Freiberger that told of how he destroyed many science fiction franchises. When he came aboard a show, it was usually in its final stages and would go off the air during that season. Since then, I've received several letters claiming that this simply wasn't true, including from people that claim to know him and have met him. I'm also informed that I'm pronouncing the name wrong. It's supposed to be Freiberger, not Freiberger. I have never heard the name pronounced before, only seen it in print. So for this video, I will pronounce it Freiberger. This week, I want to defend him and his legacy. On the surface, it would appear that he was responsible for ruining several TV shows. But was he really? Let's take a look at his time producing these shows. Looking at Star Trek, according to Wikipedia, Freiberger had been interviewed as a possible producer for Star Trek before it entered production in 1966, but had left the selection process due to a planned trip. In 1968, as a result of creative differences with broadcaster NBC, Gene Roddenberry resigned as showrunner. Freiberger was again contacted and hired as producer for the series' third season. He assumed this role with a reduced budget that made the series more difficult to produce, as well as a new Friday night death slot that resulted in a further decline in viewing ratings for what was already a low-rated program. Many Star Trek fans have since criticized Freiberger for being the cause of this decline. But actress Nichelle Nichols wrote in his defense. Nichols argued that NBC's considerable budget cutback the third season of Star Trek in an environment of risking production costs, escalating actor salaries, meant that he saw fewer outdoor location shots. For example, top writers, top guest stars, top anything you needed was harder to come by. Star Trek's demise became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I can assure you that is exactly as it was meant to be. In the third season, Fred Freiberger did everything he could to shore up the show. I know that some fans hold him responsible for the show's decline, but that is not fair. Star Trek was in a disintegrating orbit before Fred came aboard. That we were able to do even what we did is a miracle and a credit to him. One day, Fred and I had an exchange and he snapped at me. Even then, though, I knew he wasn't angry with me, but with his unenviable situation. He was a producer who had nothing to produce with. The network renewed the show due to a now famous letter-writing campaign. But that doesn't mean they believed in the show, and even though the ratings were weak, they were still better than most shows that were in that time slot before and after it went off the air. Gene Roddenberry didn't like the new time slot that NBC gave him, which is why he left production duties to Freiberger. But for me, growing up, this gave me my first taste of Star Trek, because my bedroom was adjacent to the living room, and I would leave my door open a crack so I could watch TV after being put to bed. I was only about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old. I really couldn't hear what was going on with my stepfather snoring, but I could see the ship, the phasers, the beaming up, and it looked real cool, especially for late 60s television. I was hooked and grew up watching the reruns, and I'm a lifelong fan.
And I met Fred Freiberger, who died recently, unfortunately, who was a writer on the very first Star Trek. And he was a very, very nice guy, but he was American. And what I mean by that is we have a different way of thinking.
That he felt, well, you know, adolescents love monsters, and so we're going to stick to monsters on the whole.
He came up with ideas that I didn't really approve of, but he was here, quote unquote, to satisfy the American audience.
On December 15th, 1975, Freiberger was confirmed as both script editor and producer for the second season of Jerry Anderson's British science fiction TV series Space, 1999. Recruited in part to make the series more appealing to the American market. To that end, Freiberger reworked the series with major cast and character changes, a heightened emphasis on action and drama, and even ensured that signs appearing in the episode used American English spelling. He also wrote 3 episodes for the show's second season under the pen name Charles Woodgrove. They got rid of the Barry Morse character of Victor and replaced him with Tony Inholt and Catherine Schell as Tony and the alien Maya. These younger characters were meant to appeal to a younger audience, but that strategy backfired as the Morse character was popular with the initial fan base and the new characters were not as well received. Tony did have good chemistry with Alan Carter, who was played by Nick Tate, which is one of the season's highlights. Freiberger was brought on board after Sylvia Anderson separated from her husband and no longer wished to produce the show. Though Anderson and Grade were satisfied with his choice, Abe Mandel had concerns about why he was unemployed and available at that time. Then ITC Entertainment President Sir Lou Grade abruptly canceled the series production in late 1975 when ratings in the United States had dropped during the lighter autumn months of the year. Grade had already been disappointed by the lack of American network broadcast sale. Jerry Anderson and Fred Freiberger rallied and pitched the idea of a new series with the addition of an alien character to Moonbase Alpha who would shake up the dynamic of interaction on the show and regain viewer interest in the United States. On the strength of Anderson and Freiberger's proposal of adding an alien character from the planet Psychon named Maya, Mandel approved a renewal of the series for a second year. So we actually have Fred Freiberger and his innovations to thank for the second season renewal to begin with. Without him, there would have only been 24 episodes in one season. Freiberger also was not responsible for Barrymore's departure. He was let go after a salary dispute, apparently glad to leave the show, stating that he would rather play with grown-ups for a while. Production designer Keith Wilson stated in an interview in Destination Moonbase Alpha that he was always being ordered by producer Fred Freiberger to make sets smaller, taking away the expansive and expensive look of the first series interiors. Freiberger was very budget conscious and, despite press releases to the contrary, the production team was working with less money this series. If there had been a budget increase, the stagflation economy of the 1970s would have canceled it out. When interviewed, many of the actors state that they were asked to accept less money, including Martin Landau and Barbara Bain. So, once again, Fred Freiberger was dealing with budget cuts and doing the best he could with what he was given to work with. Freiberger emphasized action-adventure in Year 2 stories to the exclusion of the metaphysical themes explored in Year 1. Of Year 1, he commented, they were doing the show as an English show where there was no story, with the people standing around and talking. In the first show I stressed action as well as character development, along with strong story content to prove that 1999 could stand up to the American concept of what an action-adventure show should be. Since Year 1 was quite serious in tone, one of Freiberger's ways to accomplish this objective was to inject humor into Year 2 stories whenever possible, but much of it seemed to the more vocal fans to be forced, especially at the conclusion of an episode where the Alphans were seen as jovial and light-hearted despite whatever violent or tragic events might have previously befallen them. Freiberger had appropriated this approach from Star Trek. The endings of many of that show's episodes featured an upbeat discussion among the cast of the lessons learned during the episode and closing on a joke. This approach was copied for Space 1999, with Koenig, Berdeschi, Russell, Carter, and Maya enjoying a laugh in the command center. Given Landau's intensity and the brooding nature of the Koenig character, the approach did not fit the series. To fulfill the scheduling requirement and cut production costs, Freiberger used the double-up script solution. During double-up installments, 2 first-unit production teams would film 2 episodes simultaneously. Landau and some of the supporting cast would be given expanded roles and would film an episode on location or on sets constructed for that story in Pinewood Soundstage M, while Bain and the remaining supporting cast, also in expanded roles, would film their episode in the standing alpha sets on Soundstage L. Landau and Bain would then be given minor roles in the opposing episodes. This measure was used to complete 8 stories as 4 pairs. Johnny Byrne, not the comic book artist, but one of the producers, said that Freiberger was a good man and good producer, but not good for Space 1999. He had gotten them a second year after the cancellation, but the changes he made did not benefit the show. According to statements made by Martin Landau, Space 1999's ratings were not low, but its cancellation was due to financier Luke Grade's decision to redirect funding from Space 1999 to his new movie project, such as Raise the Titanic. The ratings didn't improve, but they also didn't go down either, and they considered renewing the show for a 13-episode 3rd season, but that never materialized. Then we come to the $6 Million Man. Fred Freiberger was involved in that show's final season, but I couldn't find any specifics on his contribution to that show. The only thing I could find is that the show was canceled due to low ratings. That was our show for today. What do you think? Do you think that those shows were canceled because of Freiberger's involvement? Or do you think it was simply a coincidence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very honored if you did so. Click the little button to stay informed and leave a comment in the comments section. Also in the comments section, check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise. Till next time, this is Kevin Given saying, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.